Good evening. How you doing? Ah, so, what do you think's going on? What do you think about disclosure? You know what disclosure is? What's your idea of disclosure? Sup, Sensei? Hey, Twitch. Oh, I wanted to talk about a number of things this evening. One was disclosure. Hey, Jacob G. Been doing it. Good, good, good. Um, Gonna talk about disclosure this evening and social imprinting. And what do you guys think? What are you feeling? My sense of and my observation of the trends going around. I keep speaking of the 40 days and 40 nights and the open window of opportunity and just the trends that are coming together and what synchronicity is. Uh, Hold on a second. Let's get a little warm. I'm gonna turn down the heat a tad. It's been Bob Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. It was like in the 70s and the 50s at night. And now it's about 35 during the day and in the 20s at the synchronicity is king or queen, you know. Uh, Ay, ay, ay. And the interesting thing about synchronicity is that you don't imprint your own perspective. One of the things I often talk to people about is, I will listen to them and they will basically tell me their opinion about something as if it was true, right? Now, I kind of do that, but I constantly give, the disclaimer of, hey, don't believe anything I say, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Bob here is just a little distraction, and it's what you get out of it and make out of it that counts, right? But a lot of people tell me their opinion like it was fact, fake news. And that's the beauty of Donald Trump. He's like a mirror. I mean, he's no more corrupt than any other legislator. We have the best legislators money can buy. And I used to live in Europe, and it was, the people in Italy were great because, they didn't trust their politicians. They didn't, they just went on, no one paid taxes. Everyone did whatever the heck they wanted, and everything was unbelievably corrupt. And it was so corrupt that when I lived in Italy, I guess it was the 80s, maybe the late 70s, or it couldn't have been the late 70s, maybe the early 70s. But anyway, one of those times I toured through Europe, and they had elected a porn star and a horse to the Italian Senate. And she would, come in and do porno movies in the Senate. It was, quite interesting. And often she did it with the horse. And I thought that was one of the best representations of modern plutocratic democracy there ever was. And at least the folks in Europe got something. They got free education, college, university, as far as they wanted to go, and free health care. We in America spend more on health care than half of the world put together, and we are number 45. I mean, that must say something. The all the HMOs write the laws. Obama, care was written by the HMOs and the insurance companies, so they loved it anyway. And that's why Donald Trump is very interesting because he's a mirror, meaning the clown that's there. He represents every other politician that's there. They're all like that. And the American public, if they really, it's truly amazing. If you bring 10 or 20 people to your congressman's office, they will like fall over to talk to you because those 10 votes could make or break them, right? And do any of the only people who go visit the legislators are the corporations who give them money and then invite them on junkets where they then give them drugs, get them stoned, and then have them have sex with animals and then take pictures of them and then blackmail them. Hey there, Inc. I'm speaking of disclosure and social imprinting, the programming of the public to believe, as David Icke goes on and other social scientists have discussed, problem, action, solution. Meaning you want a certain outcome, you build a problem like, hey, the neocons wanted to, have regime change in 7 countries. And, they brought on, war in Iraq, by saying, oh, well, they got, they could have, we don't want to know it, the mushroom, oh, my God. Oh, so we have a war that has totally disrupted everything and caused millions of people's, lives. Back in the early 70s when I was in Europe on one of my tours, I was living in Sweden, and the Swedish government paid everyone in Sweden to have a vacation, and half of them were so neurotic that they wouldn't take their vacation. So all you had to do was go down to the Stockholm airport. They had a TV of like, okay, if you go over to gate 6, get on it, and we'll fly you to, Rome or Greece or Istanbul or, anywhere. And I spent a year letting the Swedish government fly me all over the world. And you'd spend 2 weeks there in a 5-star hotel with all these boring Swedes. And all I had to do was show up. And getting on the airplane, they would give you a visa. So I went to Syria and Iraq at that time, and they were not like our worst enemies then. I mean, actually, they were our buddies. They were, we were selling them, weapons, and and the Shah was still in power. So, it was a different Middle East, and and I traveled to Israel. I traveled all over the Middle East. And I had the Swedish visa, so everyone, by the paperwork, it said I was Swedish, and I had a international driver's license, and so instead of using my American passport, I used my international driver's license as my, ID, and it said I lived in Sweden, and I would have a visa, because when I get on the airplane, the Swedish government would stamp this, little book and hand it to me, and I'd have a visa for whatever country we were going to, and we were under the auspices of the Swedish government. And Swedes are really interesting. They're the most boring, crazy people you ever want to meet in their own country. But once they are expats in other countries, they are wild, crazy party animals. So we would fly into these countries, and there'd be Swedes there who had been, there with the travel agency to take care of the Swedes who came to visit. But they were wild, crazy people. They were party animals. And so once they put the boring Swedes to bed, they would go out and party, and I'd get off the airplane with a cowboy hat and a Hawaiian shirt and mirrored sunglasses and cowboy boots, and they go, you're our kind of guy. So I would go around on the tour, but then, instead of going to bed, I would go out and party the night away with the crazed Swedes. So I did that for a year. And see, you can always find an amazing situation to make your life. Instead of having a really boring job at the Waffle House, you can be in Paris as a waiter and live in, one of the neighborhoods that aren't for the rich people but the working class, because they still have neighborhoods like that, at least for the short time being. And that's why all those people in France are wearing the yellow vest, because they want their country to stay for them and not the robots and the transnational corporations and the brave new world that is coming to us with a swastika and a GE logo. And so that's what I'm questioning you guys, So, disclosure. You like bacon. So you're in Sweden, right? Where I used to live in Forshuga, which is between Gothenburg and Stockholm, out there in the country land. And did you ever take advantage of the federal government of Sweden paying your everything? Exactly. And the French are all right. I lived in Paris, and the French are all right. And everybody is all right as long as you're nice to them. If you're nice to them, they'll be nice to you. They really are. It's a human thing. At my parents, so it's cool. Oh, did you ever go to Gothenburg? Did you ever hang in Gothenburg? Yes, crazy Swedes. After sauna rolling in the snow, wipe each other with twigs. Yes, it's an interesting, and I was there in the 70s when they thought their shit didn't stink. I mean, they were like, I went there because a good friend of mine was trying to kill himself. And I went, and he was doing great. He had a wife, he had kids. He was a musician. He had a successful career, and he was trying to kill himself. And I went to visit him, and his wife called me up. So you got to come here. You got to straighten this guy out. He's going to see a shrink, and nothing's working. And he's in the hospital. He took some pills, and he was like, recuperating. I went to see a shrink. And I said, so what's up with my friend? And she goes, well, he's not responding to my therapy, so I just suggest that he just kill himself. And I jumped across the desk and tried to throttle this moron. I said, he's got two little kids, one who's 5 and the other who's 7, and you're telling him to kill himself? What are you, nuts? And they had to well, it's, I'm his therapist. What are you? And I said, I'm his friend. So I went back up to his room, and I said, listen, when we lived in Boston, Harvard Square, what did we do all the time? And he thought for a second. He said, well, we'd go on a road trip. I said, when's the last time you've been on a real road trip? And he goes, well, how many years has it been since we took one? I said, it's about 18 years. And he said, well, it's been 18. I said, fucking asshole. So that's when I learned about Stockholm Airport and being able to just waltz onto an airplane and go someplace. So, got him, his wife, the 2 kids, and we went to Spain, to Mallorca. 2 weeks in a 5-star hotel right near the beach, and just had paella and drank and had a grand old time. And then we went to Amsterdam for another week and stayed in a gigantic fancy hotel and smoked hash. And he was good to go. He no longer wanted to kill himself. And that's why I spent a year. They lived in Forshuga, and I spent a year for him. And every time he'd have, he wasn't on tour, or wasn't cutting a record or whatever, I would take him, the kids, and the old lady down to Stockholm and get on an airplane and go someplace fun, right? And we went to Syria, and we went and saw all of those beautiful Buddhist temples that ISIS blew up. And, ISIS is a CIA front. I mean, we went into Iraq, and we fired the Iraqi army, and then all the generals that we had trained took those guys and turned them into ISIS, working, and when they went into, Syria and into Mosul, they had U.S. Army Abrams tanks. It is this dynamic of the hidden hand that's been around since time immemorial, and the human race has just been a moron. We've never, as a race, we have always allowed ourselves to be the sheeple, up to their free will, because they're lazy, they're stupid, they're boring. They don't want to exercise their ability to have the life they can have. They much rather have this, poisonous piece of crap. Now, I have to say, I've done it. I spent 10 years working for, the corporate structure, and I was having the most materialistic, hedonist life, because I spent 60 years, oh, well, not 60 years, but, 48 years trying to be the aesthetic adept person, being awake. And, I just got tired of being out on the side of the road like Buddha all by myself. People going, "Are you God?" And me just replying, "No, I'm just awake, just awake." And so I had a good, 10 years of hedonism and having a great old time with those desperate lawyers. And because the world was no longer fun to travel in. How fortunate you to experience Sweden. I just pick up a spirit of that ancient culture. Yep. And the Swedes, when I was there, and there were some really great Swedes. But what broke Swedes back, I was there. So they had the Green Party and, the Social Democrats or whatever else they had. And the Social Democrat, the status quo political structure wanted to do two things environmentally that were like unbelievably, couldn't believe they wanted to build a nuclear power plant in one of the most beautiful places in Sweden. And they wanted to get rid of the birch trees because it was those trees were taking up space from the crappy pine trees that they turned into IKEA furniture, right? And so they used Agent Orange to kill the birch trees, which is like their sacred tree, right? And the people got very upset. So they voted in the freaking, Green Party, like en masse. And then what did the Green Party do? They took the money and did the same thing that the Social Democrats did. But before they did that, when they were having, and the Green Party promised not to build a nuclear reactor and promised not to use Agent Orange on the birch trees. And what was really amazing was in Sweden, where I lived, they only had television from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., right? And they had the news and a few other, things about this, that, and the other thing. And then they'd had whoever that Swedish director who always made movies about death, they'd have, that. And that was Swedish TV when I was living there in the 70s. And it cost a fortune to have a TV antenna. They taxed everything. It was unbelievable. But you had free health care and you had free university and you had a lot of other free interesting things. But anyway, so I'm watching the TV and they're having this debate between the Green Party and this Social Democrat guy. And the environmental minister, he's this old guy, right? And he takes, he's got this picture of this, orange, Kool-Aid stuff. And he goes, "This is the herbicide that we're going to use on the birch trees, right? We're going to spray it from airplanes. And I'm just going to show you that it is non-toxic." And he pours himself a glass of this shit and he knocks it back. And he kind of, and his eyes pop out of his head. His head turns purple with these red lightning bolt lines through his skin, and he keels over dead live on television. I'm sure that must be somewhere on YouTube. It was the most hilarious thing I'd ever fucking seen, because this guy is trying to prove to the Swedish people that this shit ain't deadly, and he frigging dies in the most unbelievably scourged, disgusting way. And he keels over. And then everything comes out his nose, his ears, his eyes, his mouth, and, the crap is running down his pant legs. It was unfrigging believable. And so the friggin' Green Party won by a landslide, and what do but build the reactor and, Agent Orange, all of the birch trees. It was unbelievable. And that is what politics around the world is. That's what Donald Trump is. But at least Donald Trump is a mirror. He is reflecting exactly what it is. He's not hiding anything. All those other morons who here in Virginia, our governor, the second in command and the third command, who are all Democrats, who all talked about the liberal way and about, diversity and all of this, and they're so cold Ku Klux Klan racists and rapists. Hey, diversity. And it's unbelievable. And, so if those three guys get thrown out or quit or resign, that means our government will go back to the Republicans who had been in power for the last 20 years and, screwed the people here like you can't believe it. And those guys are all indicted, too. So that's, and yet, so I go around. So this morning or the earlier day, conversation. I was at the library, and there was a guy who was sitting there, and I just turned it on and started talking to him. And we talked about this. And he was so socially programmed, nice guy. We had a really, I can connect with anybody. I connected with him. He was like, whoa, here's a guy who obviously isn't like me, but I like him. I get along with, hey, I can have a conversation with this guy that's actually kind of interesting. And we were going through things, and he just, he basically said, I can't believe it. I said, come on, you're like 10 years older than I am, give or take. And so you remember, Senator McCarthy, you remember Richard Nixon, and I just, went down the line of sock puppets, and he just said, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. I guess you're right. Things really are the same. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I said, the only thing about Donald Trump is that he's right in everyone's face with it, And he's on another. He still thinks he's on, the set of The Apprentice, So, and if people, the world didn't change, but basically, end of World War II, German people bombed into Stone Age. Nazis come to America under the guise of Operation Paperclip. And it wasn't just a few hundred. They brought in 70,000. And the Dulles brothers were, they were the satanic morons, because those guys created World War I. Then after World War I, they were the guys who wrote Versailles, making sure Germany would keep going, in another 20 years. The hand, the hidden hand is not so hidden. You just have to open your eyes, take your head out of the sand. Wannabe controllers pursue or can't, for all their technology, can't control the spirit of the souls. Yeah, and that's it. It's this interesting thing called the unexpected consequence. They put Donnie in thinking that, okay, and it's like, what the fuck did we do? And that's why I keep saying, we are in this window of opportunity. And we don't have to, have the burning torches and, the pitchforks. All we have to do is create art with love and be the pebble in the pond. That's it. That's all we got to do. Let's have some fun. I've been showing you pictures of every place I've gone. I have spunked up the creative essence of the community and then let people take it from there. And one of the problems of Roanoke City is that this is a city of failure. No matter what I do to try to get people excited to do, and we do some pretty interesting things. And people go, oh, well, this is kind of cool. I mean, like I told you the story, the lady who she and I and a few other people did a rave scene here. And, once we got it spun up, we had like 1,000 people in this factory every freaking weekend. And she made, a shitload of money. And we spread it around town to do culture and art shows and all kinds of stuff. And the cops couldn't care less. It didn't get in front or mess with their business plan. We had something that didn't mess with anyone's business plan, so we didn't get bothered with. And basically, it was great for about, April, May, June, July, all the way to about November, and then it kind of petered out. And we kept doing it all the way through to New Year's and Valentine's Day. And then she says, I'm going to Florida. And she took, her toys and her cash, and she actually went with Florida too with her, went down to the Keys. But no one picked it up. We laid down a pretty interesting cultural phenomena, right? And then a few years later, a really interesting music, like what happened in Seattle. There was a movement here. And that lasted about 2 or 3 years, about 5 clubs kind of spunked up. And then it died out. And there's like 5 colleges here. There's a good 20,000 worth of kids who want something to do. And they got bored and didn't do it and, just stayed in their room and ate cheese doodles. And so this is my little laboratory to say, why is this going on? So that represents a quotient of the American public. And when you slice it up into different demographic pieces, it represents a motif. And it's a cultural motif. Like, it seems people have no memory. Yes, exactly. That means you're awake, Inc. Yep. I think I've been telling you this story about 2004 or 5. Roanoke, because Bedford County had the richest people on the East Coast. Old wealth, back from the, 1790s, the Gilded Age guys. And so they had a lot of power. And so that's one of the reasons why this town is kind of stuck, because they really are cracker morons. And so a lot of things tried to happen here, and these people would just say, nope, not going to happen here. And it's disheartening, because in other cities like Ithaca and Asheville, and there were, these points where we really had excitement and we did stuff, and we started this, pushed the stone off the cliff and it rolled down the hill, and we just, I kind of left that scene, and it kept going. Of course, it got perverted and turned into hipster world, but at least it had some kind of activity. And I have loads of friends still in Asheville and in the art scene. And it still is something going on. Yes, it wasn't the kind of unbelievable fresh thing that we did between 91 and 98. But it's still pretty amazing, right? And so, anyway, in Roanoke, around 05 or 06, because of the rich guys, they have this gasoline straw that goes from Texas right to us. So our gasoline is about 20 cents cheaper than anywhere else on the East Coast. And when hurricanes would hit the coast of Texas, they would shut down the refineries and the oil platforms. But that straw that went from Texas to us, they would fill up, and they had tanks here, lots of them, and they'd fill them up, and then the hurricane would come. And even though nothing was being pushed in it, the tanks were full and the straw was full. And by the time it was getting low, they'd already start up and pump stuff down the straw. Well, for some reason, this hurricane was coming, and they let the tanks go to empty, and they emptied out the straw. And then for about 3 weeks, the valley had no gasoline. And in those days, I had about 5 different places that I had that I would stay at. They were all really beautiful. They were all really interesting, down in Florida Keys and in West Virginia, Tennessee, and here. And I'd spend a few weeks and then go on to the next one or have a gig or do whatever. And I came back, and I came back from the south, so I came up 81. I stopped at Blacksburg, filled my car up because it was about empty, and there was a Kroger's there, so I got a ton of food in my car, and I drove up to the school, and I stayed there for a few days, and I came down, and it was like, the zombie apocalypse. I mean, the National Guard was here. All the cops were in all the supermarkets and at the gas pumps, and nobody had any gas, and none of the trucks delivered food because there was no gas for them. And I watched it. I talked to a cop that I knew. I said, "What the fuck is going on?" He gave me we don't have any gas because of this, this, and this. And I said, and I said, fuck this. And I went back up to the school. I stayed a few more days, came back, and everything was coming back to normal. Gas came back online, da 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 da. Well, that was in 04, 5, or 6, right? Well, I've asked people, so do you remember when no one remembers that. Now, I go talk to the few police that are still on the job that I knew at that time who were experienced that. I said, do you remember when that? Oh, yeah, I remember when that happened. But the rest of the city doesn't remember it. The politicians don't remember it. The cops who were, on the line, they remember it, but nobody else. That's pretty freaking amazing. I mean, it was like I said, the zombie apocalypse. And, let's say it was 2006. That's what is that? 13 years? You should forget the zombie apocalypse in 13 years. Anyway, so things are really interesting, and yet the technology. So there's a guy named Dr. Stephen Greer, who's all about disclosure, right? And I met him. I knew him. He was in Asheville when I lived there. I knew him when he was an emergency doctor. I had a girlfriend who was a shrink who was a good friend of his. And he had a house out in the woods. And he had his old cabin there. And she was recuperating, so he let her stay there. And we used to, go there, and then it would snow, and we stick there for a week or two, and then come back. And I cooked food for her and made her happy for weeks on end, and then she was healed. That's all it took. She just needed someone to shtup her and make good food and tickle her and rub her feet and make her happy, and, she came back to work. But so I got to know him relatively well, and I had been involved in this thing way before he got involved. So he realized, we would talk, and I would tell him my little adventures in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And he had gotten into it. He had experiences when he was young, and he kind of got into it at the end of the 80s, like where he committed himself to, boy, this is, someone should do something about that. I guess I will. And he has, like I said, he has this hero mentality, just like David Wilcox, right? That they're going to, be the hero, right? And there's a place for that. And both Wilcox and Corey Good and Stephen Greer do, they bring out a lot of information, and they do bring it out there. But they're being used, and I don't know quite. The hero distracts themselves so much that they don't kind of realize they're the hero. I have a few rules when I get involved in things. There's two basic rules. There are other ones, but the two basic are: I do not get involved unless I can do good, period. You know, I do not get involved unless I can learn something. Those are my two basic rules. Now, the other rules are: I get involved if innocent people are in harm's way. And if I can go in and get them out of harm's way, I will get involved. But I'm not there to win the war or do anything. I just get the folk out of harm's way, period. Get them over there, so they're not going to get whacked. So those are my basic, and I have other rules, but those are the three basic ones, right? And they work very good. They protect me. They keep me not only out of harm's way, but it keeps my ego in check. Because once you let yourself think you're the hero, that's when the ego and the id takes over. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Yep. Memory is comfort, but sometimes feels like a curse. I knew Baba stated in his silence, forget about the past, keep your heart clean. Now, memory, again, there are some rules to memory. If you are modeling, if you are about, what is that when like you're thinking about the 50s? I forgot what that term is. When you're in that part of memory, that's a kind of waste of time. Wanting to think, oh, I want it to be, let's make America great again. It never was, right? But if your memories bring love to your heart, those memories are good. 25 degrees. I hate it when it's that cold. Not fun. Nope. Adventure is 100%. Yes, you may not live, right? That's kind of adventurous. Yes, to be awake, you have to have experience, right? Nostalgia. Yep, thank you, Dragon. That's the word I was looking for. Memory within nostalgia is very dangerous. But memory is like my parents, right? My parents were really great, but they were jerk offs. They were assholes. So I had nothing to do with them when they were jerk offs and assholes. But when they were their better selves, I was all ready to, because my father had a great spirit of over the horizon. Let's go try this. Like he was big on the summer vacation, right? And when we were not really rich, he would take us to places that were really interesting and exciting. And I loved it because he would, we were going to go see the biggest, you know, ball of string or whatever. And he would always find some. I remember one time we were going to some place like that, and he saw this big castle up on it. Let's go see what that is. And then we drove in there, and the gate was open, and we just kind of drove in, and we came up around. The front of this castle was facing the back, not the driveway. So when you drove up, there was this big, beautiful garden and a lawn and big patio. It's a castle, gigantic, probably was easy 15 to 20,000 square feet, right? And so you drove around to the front where the big columns and everything. When we came around the circular driveway, there was just the biggest, swastika flag, red, black with the white swastika, and all of these guys marching around in SS uniforms. And I'm about, I don't know, 10, and my dad is just not too far back from being a colonel in the Air Force, right? And he fought the Nazis. He lost a lot of friends to guys, Nazis who shot down his friends. And he can't. He's like, we're in the station wagon. There's six of the kids and my mom, and we come up, and there's like guys with machine guns in Nazi uniforms and the swastika, and my father is gonna go kick their ass because he's still in pretty good shape. And my mother grabs his, no, Ray, no, 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 no. Look at those guys. They got machine guns. No, no, no. And the guy comes over. He goes, what you doing here? And my mother says, oh, we just took a wrong turn. How do we get back to Cincinnati? And he goes, you get out of here quickly. That's how you get back to Cincinnati. So, my dad was about to get out there and try to beat the crap out of these guys. And my mom said, no, Ray, let's go. Because my mom was whatever my mom said was what it was. So that was my dad. He would do shit like that all the time, and it was so much fun when he did shit like that. Now that would probably put our lives in danger, but he was always ready to go over the horizon, right? And that was loads of fun. And once he got some money, he started renting houses, big houses, that we'd have for the summer. He didn't buy them or anything, but he wanted us to experience these. So out there in the Hamptons, he would rent these old mansions that, this was still in the 60s and 60s. And so, it cost him maybe $1,200 a month, No big deal, 2 or 3 months but they were amazing. And my mother loved these things, right? And we went to this one place called Oldfield, and it was like going back in time. And we were in this estate, and it was a beautiful, beautiful house, and it was one floor with about 10 bedrooms. And his friends came and stayed as, all his best buddies from the Air Force and from high school and college, and my mom's friends from running hospitals. And they had cocktail parties and cookouts, and they had this big lawn where we had badminton and croquet, and that's all we did. And cards. My mom's a card shark; she loves cards, and my uncle Babe loved chess. And I played chess all the time with Uncle Babe, and we played croquet and badminton, and had great food, and everyone was pretty much drunk all the time. And this lawn just was like 5 square acres of manic, like a golf course green. And we had no TV, no radio, and my dad bought a hi-fi. This is the new technology, high fidelity, and he bought a stack of records, and he had like Kingston Trio and English comedy, and boxes of classical music, and jazz. So we listened to jazz, the Kingston Trio, English comedy, and classical music. That's all. No radio, no nothing, no popular music. That's all we heard, and played croquet and badminton, and chess, and we. It was about a tenth of a mile down to the Long Island Sound. We went down there, and the beach was right there, and we'd go swimming in the beach. It was just. And we did that for 2 different summers, and then he rented a house, gigantic, haunted house, a house that was actually haunted in a place called Shelter Island. And Long Island looks like a fish, and in the middle of the tail, there's Shelter Island. And we rented that place for 3 summers straight. And the ghosts were like part of our family. They were, and my mom is Irish, so she has a bit of the knack in her. And but she's got this rocket science. That's where I get my rocket scientist brain. And it was, and so those are amazing memories, and they're not nostalgia. It's not like I want them back. It's just that I appreciate having them, right? And whenever I think of them, and what's sad is that my brothers and sisters, we had a really good time, but my brothers and sisters were teenagers, and they wanted to be with their friends, and they would have fun, besides themselves. But I just loved it, and it had a gigantic library with every kind of book there was. They had all of these great classic stories. It had Poe and Dickens, and that's where I read Melville for the first time, and Twain for the first time, and Mary Shelley. I read Frankenstein for the first time, and I read them with my mom, and she loved reading, and she loved reading out loud. So we would sit in this couch, beautiful couch, and this what was beautiful about this house was it had a big day room. Behind it was a gigantic big living room, and on one side was the dining room and the kitchen, and on the other side was this library, and behind that were about, like I said, about 10 bedrooms. It just kept going that way. And all of it was opened out. They're big French doors that didn't open like this. They slided, ding, 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 ding. And so that it was about a 20-foot open hole when you slid all the glasses this way. And so you walked right from this day room into this patio that had a roof over it and had this like amazing grill, not gas, but, over there where my dad did steaks every night and lobster. And, he worked in New York every day. And, Oldfield was the last stop on the Long Island Railroad. And that was my dad. He would take the train from Oldfield. He'd get up at like, 3 in the morning, get ready, shine our shoes, make oatmeal, get in his car, drive to the railroad, and, take a 2.5 hour railroad trip one way and do his business and come back tonight. And I mean, that was my dad. And he would be in a good mood. He'd look forward. He and I would walk down, and he loved every night, summertime, he'd get home around 6:37. And, before dinner, he and I would walk down and jump into the Long Island Sound and splash around in the water. And he loved it. And I loved doing that with my dad. And when my dad was like that, you couldn't beat it. When he was a jerk, I was never there. I didn't argue with him. I just was not there, So those are memories, not nostalgia. And what's sad is my sisters, they don't remember anything about our childhood until they, got married, left the house. Now, I left the house at 14, so I remember all of that. So what kind of experience did you have in your haunted house? Because the house that we lived in, it was cool. It was like they were really individual personalities. You could see them, you could talk to them, you could hang with them, and they liked us. They didn't try to, scare us or screw with us. Once they let us know that they were, my dad bought this, rented this gigantic house, like something out of, the 19th, it was from the 19th century, right on the top of this hill, overlooking the Long Island Sound. And it took these stairs all the way down, and there was the beach. And it, too, had this beautiful lawn, and we had croquet and badminton. And, but instead of, the Oldfield place cost $1,200 in 1960, whatever it was, 4 or 5 or whatever it was, a lot of money. But the house in Shelter Island cost $200 a month because nobody wanted to rent a haunted house. And so my dad said, "Yeah, I'll take it for 5 months," because he spent for 5 months. He got it, what the Oldfield house cost for. 1 month, he got 5 months. So we started going up there in the spring and kept going there all the way through Thanksgiving. Anyway, and he said, we're going to, he showed us pictures of the place. And so we're going to rent this. And there's a whole nother family there. And we said, "There's a family there?" He said, "Oh, yeah." And that's what he called them. He called them our relatives. And we got there. and they were as there as you could be there. I mean, you could like put your hand through them, but they were there, you know. And sometimes they were really you could really see them. Other times they were kind of misty, but they're what you could feel was who they were and why they were still there. And that was quite interesting. That's when, that's really kind of when I kind of got stuck into the paranormal. I said, wow, this ain't scary. My grandma showed me that there was nothing to be scared of, right? And there was always something to be interested in. So, and my grandma was there too, and she thought it was cool. There was two old ladies who were in that house. One was the matriarch, and the other was her best friend, who was like her maid. And my grandma hung with those two. Like, they hung out, and my this house was so big. There were little apartments. Everyone kind of had their own little. You not only had a bedroom, but it was like a suite. Bedroom, your own bathroom, a dressing room, and then there was this. Each room had a balcony, and the space before the balcony was like your sitting room. So we all had a room like that. It was quite an extraordinary house. And the wiring was like from, 1890, rubber coated copper. Those things were always burning out. And, my dad was always having me fix things. It was like, and so it was an adventure. And my brothers and sisters sometimes really liked it, and other times, "Well, I want to be with my friends back in, it was like interesting. So that's how I look at memories. And I've had all these teachers, all these mentors, all these different times. I've shown you a lot of photos, and those photographs represent memories of times that, we did things. And I still have friends in all these places. I mean, I have friends. I can go to New York City right this minute and stay with people. But, they could put up with me for 4 or 5 days, and then I'd have to find somebody else to stay with. And New York is too expensive, to this, to that. And I've already been there. I've already done everything I could ever do there. And I've gone back and visited friends, and it's nice. And it's much nicer to visit my friends in all these places in the spring, summer, and fall. Because then it's comfy. I can throw a tent on their front lawn, a lot of stuff. Asheville is the same thing. I have loads of friends in Asheville I could go stay with. And my deep green is about 80 miles from them. So they come visit me there. I go visit them. But, all the places that I used to be in, and I was the dude in all of them, they became exactly what I told people they would become, because that was my job. My job is to look at trends and look at forecasts, what's coming down the pike. And so that's kind of what it is. So the thing about, so that's why, Asheville is where I knew Dr. Greer. And so, and I told them a lot of stories, and, bottom line, everything, you go on the YouTube and, Dr. Stephen Greer, and look at all, he's got to describe, the whole ball of wax. And he kind of had to. I mean, if he's going to go out there and try and push the envelope, he had to become as public as he could. Otherwise, they would just snuff him. And so go look at him, because he really does have a lot of great information about the historical sense, because he really nails the whole story of the national security state that we now live in, which is the Nazi state. We live in a corporate, plutocratic, fascist government, environment, social environment. Now, the United States has always been that since Chris Columbus showed up. Just all you had to be was an Indian. And the other was always the other, but now the other's becoming all of us. So Greer is very good on describing the whole, See, the thing is, it's not a government. It's not the deep state. It's a corporate state. Because if it was the government, we could dig out because they have this thing, the FOIA. You could, if you know what you were looking for, you could find out everything. But because everything, all of this technology, I mean, they've had 0 point energy since Nikola Tesla in the 1870s, you know? And again, if you go, another thing you guys need to go look for is the mud flood and the Gilded Age, because they had this technology going on in the United States in, the, basically before Tesla, there were people who had, basically found 0 point energy and, had, anti-gravity, like in the 1740s, you know, before the frigging revolution. That's where Ben Franklin was at, him with the little kite and the key. I mean, that's what he was looking at. That's why the Europeans were so enamored with Franklin, because he was like smarter than Einstein, right? Einstein's math just doesn't work. I mean, he was just put there as a poster boy, you know. His sister or his wife or his cousin who became his wife was the smart one. And she pushed him up because in those days women couldn't have that. And she thought if she could just, push him and then take, and everyone knew she was the smart one, but he was such a dick that he left her in the dust. Anyway, that's kind of where we're at. We're at this very interesting thing. And so we have the only technology we were given was the avenue for artificial intelligence to bore a hole into our psyche and pour nanotechnology into it for us to become transhuman, you know? And all those, and that's, the mark of the beast is, we are the mark of the beast. We are 666. We are carbon-based units. Carbon, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, 6 protons, 666. We are the mark of the beast, right? So here we are, this very interesting little window of opportunity. And here we are at 57 minutes and 57 seconds. So what I'm going to, let's see, first I'm going to kind of read what you guys have been saying here. I think by all of us family. Yeah, same. That was exactly it with me, T. Previous owners, right? Footsteps, projections, actual sightings by all of us in the family. So, did you make any relationships with these folks? That's when it gets interesting. When they actually come and sit on your bedside and they basically tell you where they are and show you that they're just in another dimension. Did you get any of that? Nitty gritty. T. So I think what might be an interesting excursion for our meditation tonight is to go, into that place through our tree of truth. The unified field theory has, in by large, been solved by where? Yep. And all of the math that was needed was Euclides and geometry. That's the math. Everything else, trigonometry, algebra, is like horse crap. Euclidean geometry is, when you want to look at torsion field equations, it's in the geometry, not in the trigonometry. And that's the problem with, Einstein. And all the energy we need is right on that edge between dimensions. That's what they called the vacuum, where the Tesla learned how to pump that. Just ground it, put heavy duty high voltage into it, and bingo, out the other side of the tap comes all the current you'd ever freaking want. And the device can be like the size of a pack of cigarettes. I I don't know if you ever has anyone read Margaret Cheney's book Man Out of Time, which is probably the best book about Nikola Tesla. All the rest of the freaking books about Tesla are they all read Margaret Cheney's book and just used her book and never gave her credit for it. And oh, this is where I did all my research. No, sorry. They just ripped Margaret Cheney off big time. But anyway, and there's a scene where Tesla had all his laboratories downtown, off of Pearl Street. And Edison kept just sending his thugs in there, burning smashing up his laboratory and burning them to the ground. And then he'd get another laboratory and do more work. Because all of his stuff he kept in his Akashic record. He didn't care if his blueprints got, burned up. He could just draw them again. So he had a laboratory called Mohawk Electric right on the corner of Hudson and Duane Street. And Grandpa Stoll, when I was 19, he owned that building. And he said, here, you can, this will be your laboratory. And it was it faced Duane Park. And that's where Hotel Bar and Butter had most of those buildings were refrigerators. And, Grandpa Stoll introduced me to Grandpa Joe, who owned and started Hotel Bar Butter, and I basically, that was one of my first big clients, taking care of their refrigeration. And so in Tesla's lab, which is, I bet you if you were to go, Google Mohawk Electric, Hudson and Duane, there'll be pictures of that place, right? That's big loading pap one signed Mohawk Electric. And what was truly interesting was that Tesla built that building in a way. He had it designed, and the harmonics of the building were right on ley lines. And all of those taps for 0 point energy were in the building, in the walls. All I had to do is put coil, put a kind of battery charger cable on these clamps, on these things that just came out of the wall, and then build a transformer, and bingo, you had unlimited electricity. And what was the other amazing thing that there came out of different walls, and that if you put a scalar amplifier, which all you had to do is walk down Varick Street about 5 blocks to Radio Row, and these buildings were all these old Dutch warehouses, and they tore them all down to build the World Trade Center. But before then, they were there, and they were just full of all kinds of ancient radio stuff and stuff before Marconi, Tesla stuff that were all scalar. And I knew that, I would go in there with Grandpa Stoll, and he said, oh, you buy that, we're going to take that one and this one and that one. And we moved them down to Mohawk Electric, and we started playing around with this stuff. And we created a scalar audio amplifier, and we put a horn into these pipes, and you could hear the conversations of Nikola Tesla from 100 years ago, because they were still in the ether. This technology, and they've had since friggin' Tesla, since, like I said, the 1870s. And so the technology, so all the shit that people see up there, oh, those are extraterrestrial flying saucers. Well, no, that's our shit. All the stuff that you see as ships, the triangles, the cigars, the sauce, they're ours, terrestrial made. Now, there are extraterrestrials here, and there are extra dimensionals here, But they don't come here with spaceships. They have little doorways. They got apartments, you know, in wherever they want to hang out, and they come in through the closet. And so I would say this evening, in about a few minutes, we'll see if anybody else shows up. We will go into state, and we'll take a little tour to paranormal. And we're going to visit the haunted house in Shelter Island. We're going to go visit Mohawk Electric, and we're going to see the zero point energy device. We're going to listen from people from the past and the future through the pipes in the wall, and there is a vortex that was on the second floor that we will go and visit. Very strange places. Sounds like fun, eh? Okay, I'm going to take my shirt off. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit. It's starting to get toasty again. And I'm going to turn the light off, and we're going to go into state. So everybody get rest, in a nice, comfortable, safe position. And we are going to, in a few minutes, start our little going into state, okay? Doo-dah, doo-dah, Camptown races sing this song, oh, doo-dah day. Okay. So, anybody want to say anything? Yeah, in the 1700s, Bob. Yep, exactamente. They were ships. These guys, they were Germans in California. If you were to Google airships in California in the 1840s, German airships in California. And they were gravitational, field generator devices, right? And the guys who were there, they were German guys. And they basically, they came to California because, why does anyone come to California? For the weather. But there were other things, and real estate was cheap, and they could fool around with stuff, and no one would notice them fooling. And this was the 1840s, before the Civil War. These guys were doing this shit, right? And they were part of the Vole and the Fool societies. They were the people who were bankrolling them. And there are a few folks who talk about it on YouTube and on websites. If you were to, Germans and California, airships, 1840s, you would get it. And the cigar craft that we see are U.S. Navy submarines because they perfected gravomagnetic propulsion. If you go back and read Aviation and Space magazine and Jan's, because these are aerospace journals, right? You don't need spies. All you have to do is get these magazines. Aviation and Space is amazing. They weekly, and they have been publishing this magazine weekly since the 1920s, and they have articles in there about the Philadelphia experiment. I mean, everything is in there. Now, you'd have to find some library that has microfiche that has all that old stuff because they've rewritten history. But back in the day, when I was at the UN, I had all these journals, and I had Billy Kluver gave me his things back to the to the 1940s. He just brought boxes and boxes and boxes of this stuff into our office at the UN, and I read them all. And especially in the from about 1948 about 1958, all they talked about was Lockheed, Martin Marietta, Douglas, Boeing, Grumman, all were gaga for gravomagnetics. And then all of a sudden, as soon as they got it down, on the front edge of this technological thing. They're the people, not the Air Force, the Navy, because the Navy's been around longer than anybody, and they've been technological, and they had the Jesuits behind them, and so what did they do? They had these Polaris submarines, and they're built to take pressures of thousands of tons per square inch going under the sea. So going out into space with one of those things was nothing. So they stuck these, electrogravitic generators, on the submarines and levitated them out into space. So when people, there's a big cigar flying through the sky, that was, Polaris submarine. And again, if you go, hunting around YouTube and the internet, you'll find all this stuff, right? And again, you have to be the folks looking for this, right? And you have to use your Akashic record to suss out whether it's bull crap or real. Yeah, good old. I was part of the Theosophical Society. Mabosky was interesting. Okay, King James. I've read him enough. Society, 1918. Okay. So everyone comfy? The crowd thinned out. We had about 13 people. Now it's 7. Nobody wants to go visit the ghosts, I guess. But you guys, you're the brave. The brave and the beautiful. Yep. And maybe more will jump back in. So, everyone's in a comfy spot, right? You're in a chair, you're not got nothing crossed, you're going to be in a place where you won't, your avatar won't fall over. You'll be safe, right? Okay. Let's do it. Got it, buddy. Okay. Everyone breathe in that 20%. Fill your lungs and expand. You let it out, let it out, let it out. Evacuate. You're breathing in 20% and breathing out 30%. And that will relax your conscious mind. That little squirrel in your Rolodex won't be able to think about anything because it has to focus on your breath. Breathing in 20% and breathing out 30%. As you're doing, breathing in the prana in through your nose, it's going into your lungs. Your heart is pumping the blood through. Your iron-rich blood is taking all of that prana energy, taking it to every cell, energizing your mitochondria. You're grounding it all out, creating the circuit of photonic energy through your chi. And you're illuminating yourself, and you illuminate yourself in your imaginary mirror. That's where your eyelids are, right? And so you're breathing in that prana. You're energizing every cell. You're going deeper and deeper and deeper into a relaxed state. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. And you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your body, your avatar is safe and secure, and your consciousness is illuminated in your imaginary mirror. You're taking that photonic light and shining it into your thoughts, and it's not a scary place. It is a library or Akashic record. You go in there, you see it clearly, and you're letting it all go. See it clearly. Going deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation. See it clearly. And 2, you're walking into your library of your Akashic record. In front of you is your fireplace of the eternal flame. In front of that are some nice comfy leather chairs for guests. In front of that is your reading table, illuminated from above with photonic light. There are no shadows. Behind that is your reading chair. You go to your reading chair and you sit down, and to your left is your librarian, your animal totem, and your guardian angel. Librarian brings you your Akashic record. Your animal totem's there to give you any assistance to understand with the story, and your guardian angel always has your back. See it clearly. And I want you to take your right hand, you open up your Akashic record, and put your right hand on the right empty page, and you take your left hand, you put it on the left page, and you lean into your Akashic record, and you evacuate all of your fear, all of your anger, all of your frustrations, all of the illusions of hate, anxiety, avarice. You see that there is no reason to lie, cheat, or steal, and you take all of that weight of the illusion of Lucifer and put it into your Akashic record, and you close the book. Boom. And you go back and look at it at your leisure and deconstruct forensically all of those threads of what causes you anxiety and frustration and blocks of being able to attain what you want. It is up to you to ferret your own path because you have a free will. See it clearly. But for now, you feel light as a feather. You're floating out of your chair and you're going over to the shortcut to your own lodge in your house of the cadre. And that house of the cadre is known as the Oracle of Delphi. And the outside, it looks like Frank Lloyd Wright's house in Pennsylvania called Falling Water. And you walk through the big doors, and above the big doors it says, Know Thyself. And you go into the lobby of the big house, and then you walk into the common room, and off to the common room is each of your own personal lodges. You can go into them, and in that lodge, you will find your guide, your lodge guide, and you sit down, and you have a nice tea with your guide, and you become relaxed and at ease and energized and focused and realizing the journey we're going to take into the paranormal. So you walk down into your garden, you walk over to the tree of knowledge, which is in the center of your garden, next to the little pond of the Great Lake, and you look down at the roots and you see a little opening in one of the roots, and it's glowing, and you take your telescopic eye and you look down through the opening and you see that it is the land of the see it clearly. And then the purple light comes and surrounds you and takes you down carefully and safely into the land of paranormal. And when you're going in it through that way, you're protected because you're in your own garden and you're surrounded by all that protection of your lodge, but you're in that area. So you are walking down this lane, and there's trees on either side, and it's a warm but still beautiful early summer day. It's kind of not quite noon, it's still somewhat in the morning, and you're walking up this lane, and it's surrounded by trees, and you come around a bend, and there's this big, beautiful lawn, at least 3 or 4 acres big, and meticulously mowed, and there is a croquet field and a badminton, and this big, long, singular floor house, and it is white, and it's got all these French doors all the way around it. And there's a ton of light going in. And coming out to this covered patio, these glass doors are open, 20-foot wide opening into the day room. And you hear the music of Vivaldi playing. And you walk into it, and you There's no one there. And though out on the patio that's covered, there are these leather chairs, you know, and you sit down at one of the chairs, and you will see around you a slate floor that then goes, once it goes into room, it's wood floor. And they're big Pakistani rugs, you know, and they're beautiful. And the walls are covered in prints, very colorful prints. And it leads behind it into a large library, covered, the walls covered in books. And there's a big fireplace, and there, again, leather chairs. In the day room, there are couches that are covered, upholstered with nice cotton of flowers, very bright flowers. And there are tables everywhere with vases of cut flowers from the garden. And the music of Vivaldi is playing. And you hear it everywhere. And it's just, it's soothing and yet energizing. It's romantic and yet playful. And you're sitting outside in this leather chair on the slate floor, and you can smell the honeysuckle, and you can smell the roses, and you see a old gentleman walking through the trees, and he comes out onto the lawn, and he walks towards you, and he sits down and smiles at you and doesn't say anything, and you smile at him. And you don't talk, but you can hear his voice in your head. And he says that his name is Robert Astor, that he was the architect of this house in the 1890s, and that he built it for his daughter and all of her children. And he starts telling of how he used to play hide and seek with his grandchildren, and that he had secret doorways that would be shortcuts to other parts of the house, so he could basically disappear. And that in those doors built by Eastern Europeans who were of a sect of gypsies who put spells into different parts of this house, and that there were carvings in the wood panels that were Sitchins, that they were power um, conduits of dimensional power. And he was a friend of Nikola Tesla's, who came and spent, because his Tesla's Wardenclyffes and his laboratories in Suffolk County were just a few miles away. And Tesla used to visit here and understood what the Eastern Europeans had done, because it was very similar to his experiments. You know, one man's magic is another man's science. And so I want you to, ask this old gentleman, Mr. Astor, to point these things out to you and to explain them to you. And he will tell you that he intuitively was able to use it, but couldn't explain it to you. But he could bring creatures and other personalities through these portals to come and answer any question you wanted to know about the paranormal and dimensional cavities and, you know, Eastern Orthodox science. And two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation, going deeper and deeper. Your conscious mind is now totally focused on your breath. You're not distracted at all, and you have traveled from your avatar to your imaginary mirror, to your library, to your lodge, to your garden, into the roots of the tree of knowledge, into this land of paranormal. And you're sitting out on the covered patio with Mr. Astor, and he is bringing forth from these dimensional doorways. And you're seeing on the wood carvings that they're now starting to illuminate with photonic energy. And they are glowing red and gold and swirling in purple. See it clearly. And see the symbols and remember the symbols. And I want you in the next few days, tomorrow and Sunday and whatever time you have, get your little notebook out and start drawing them in your notebook. And also drawing them in your Akashic record. And then it'll be in your Akashic record, and you'll be on that screen, and then you'll have the 28 little screens around it that will give you the 411 on what that sitchin is, what it means. It'll write it out. It'll be like everything you'd ever want to know. And this is a good exercise for you to take information from this experience, put it into your Akashic record, then bring forth the information. And if you need any more, your librarian will bring you other books. You don't understand it, you can ask your animal totem, who will tell you a story that will go, oh yeah, that's what that means. And you won't have to feel scared because your guardian angel will have your back. See it clearly. Right? And two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. See it clearly. And the creatures and individuals and personalities are coming out of these hidden doorways, these dimensional doorways in this house. See it clearly. And some of these creatures you know. And there are people from your past lives, there are people from your family who may have passed on or who are still here but haven't been able to freely communicate with you. This house is a place you can come. When you go into your lodge, go into your garden, go into the roots of your tree, you can go here and access knowledge in a way that you really haven't been able to. And this is part of what going into state will enable you to do, to plumb the paranormal, to get information that it's not even in a book. You guys are, oh, what book should I read? Forget about it. This is where you get your information. And you put it into your Akashic record. And now you got that book in your library. I'm going to be quiet for a moment or two. And I want you to interact here, right? I'm not going to describe or tell you what you're going to interact with because it's coming from you, not me, you. I am your Sensei Al Bob. I brought you here to experience. This is your experience, not mine to put upon you. I'm not printing this on you. This is your experience. So go, experience. And two, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. You have traveled from your avatar. You've illuminated yourself in your imaginary mirror and taken that photonic light of the prana, energized by your mitochondria, and illuminated your subconscious with the library of your Akashic records. See clearly. You have evacuated all of your anxiety and anger and allowed yourself to lighten yourself and gone into your own lodge through your shortcut. And you went from being in your lodge, common room, into your garden. You've gone down to the roots of the tree of knowledge and gone into the land of the paranormal, and you're at your home in the paranormal. That beautiful house, white with glass windows everywhere, a beautiful acreage of a lawn that looks like a golf, beautiful green, totally mowed lawn, a badminton net, croquet, the sound of Vivaldi. And now all of these characters have come out of these dimensional doorways, and they're milling around, and they're playing badminton, and they're playing croquet, and they're sitting around you talking about things that you want to know about, and they're explaining things that you needed to know about. And you're just having the best. It's like a party. And they're sharing their little poutine with you, and their teapots, and there's cookies, and it's just an amazing extravaganza of experience, and your mind is being opened. You are suspending your disbelief. You are there now more than than being in your avatar. You're experiencing this more real than you ever had a dream. You are consciously in state in this land of the paranormal, and all of these amazing things are walking around you and talking to you in your mind. You're not, getting in your way. Cookies, yes, cookies. Yep, safety beyond belief. Yep. So just keep having a good time, guys. And you're all together. That you are the cadre, you're all together. You know? You're all together. Your experiences. You're not just experiencing it as your lone individual, you know, incarcerated self. Because you're not even in your avatar. You're in your consciousness's free will. You're not experiencing this as your avatar, your body, your mud puppet. You're experiencing this as your conscious free will. And you feel the presence of love's co-creation in everything. So it's making this happen, is love's co-creation. That's why you are safe, you're secure. No matter what creature is walking out of those doorways, they're not a threat. They're not angry. They're there to co-create. They're there to share. They're there to, have you come experienced. Exactly, Ink. Gulp. Enjoy. 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 And 3, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. It is running on automatic, and you're not in your avatar whatsoever. You have traveled all the way to what I call the paranormal sanctuary of the glassed lawn house. And this is a place you can go. Just close your eyes and visualize this place. The lawn, the White House, the windows, the patio, the slate patio covered with those leather chairs and the badminton net and the croquet and the sound of jazz. Miles Davis is now playing. And there are now hundreds of spirits walking around of every shape, form, and size. And you're communicating at will through your consciousness, not through your lungs and your mouth, because your avatar you're not there. You're not your avatar. You are your consciousness. And these creatures and spirits and characters are they themselves, their consciousness, not their avatar. So there is no threat. There's no physical bodily harm that can be done, not even emotional or spiritual, right? Because everyone's there on behest of love's co-creation. See it clearly. And you will be able to go there easier than going anywhere else. Just close your eyes, see that light, see yourself walking down that lane surrounded by trees and the morning light coming through the trees, making the patterns on the ground like lace. It's just like Limerick lace. The light coming through the leaves project, because it's photonic light, a clear pattern on the ground. And that pattern is what illuminates you to the space of the spirits. It is the entryway, your gateway into the paranormal. And in the paranormal, this place, there is nothing threatening, nothing evil, nothing harmful. This is strictly a place where you can inform your spirit, because everything that's there is there in love's co-creation. And every experience you have will be the most joyous experience. You know, if you are down, if you feel upset, if you feel any way in your material day-to-day put upon, just close your eyes, breathe 20% more, breathe 30%, and go straight to this paranormal sanctuary. And there will be guides and liberators and species and friends that you can just have a good time with. Have a cup of tea, a glass of poutine, a game of badminton or volleyball or croquet, or just sit on a lounge chair in the sun, or walk down the path further to the beach and take a swim in that water of knowledge. See that clearly. And along with these spirits and characters are your cadre. That's where Twitchy is. That's where Buddy is. That's where Jane is. You're all there. All of your relations. See it clearly. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And every day and every way, let us take the peace of the earth and make it stronger with love's co-creation. And Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour of death. Amen. Aho. That strawberry jam tastes pretty good. An experience long past but still vivid. And this is the value of memory. A profound dimension. This memory that goes back forever is deeper and more profound than nostalgia. Nostalgia is like a holiday Christmas card. This is more than that. This is a cornerstone to your understanding of who you are. This is a place you can come and deconstruct any problem you have. And you can bring your guides with you. You can bring anybody you want with you. You know, these are dimensional doorways, you can come through. And you can take these images and put them in your Akashic record so you can study them in a more forensic kind of way. Because when you are there at the Sanctuary of the Paranormal, there is no forensic anything. You are experiencing truth. You don't have to doubt anything, and you don't have any disbelief. It's not like you have to suspend your disbelief, because there is no disbelief, because you are there experiencing it now. So be there now, experience it totally, and then I will count you back and we will chat about your experience. Enjoy. And 3, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind, your avatar is focused on your breath. And you are in the Sanctuary of the Paranormal, and you are surrounded by spirits and guides and characters, personas, and creatures, and also your cadre, your chorus, all of your fellow and sister shock troops of love's co-creation. And all of the paranormal characters are also your fellow and sister shock troops. So when you go into battle as love is your garland, these are your cadre, your fellow shock troops, not just the 12 to 20 of the chorus that goes into state with you each night, but these characters are also with you. And they will enable you to be telepathic, because the only way you can communicate with anyone that is here at the paranormal sanctuary is through telepathy, because you are not in your avatar. You do not have lungs. You don't have a mouth. You just have your consciousness of your free will. You have your better self. You are with love's co-creation when you are in the sanctuary of the paranormal. That is what the paranormal is. See it clearly. The paranormal, again, is not a scary place. It is love's co-creation. See it clearly. And again, I'm going to be quiet for a while, and I want you to have a really good time and just do whatever, read a book, play a game of Parcheesi, or bridge, or any game you want to play, badminton, volleyball, croquet, roll around on the grass, go swimming. Enjoy everything there is to experience there, and connect yourself in such a way that you can go there with ease. This is a place of ease. It's not a place of challenge. It's a place of ease. See it clearly. And 3, you're in a deep state of relaxation in the sanctuary of the paranormal. So, why don't you, multitask and chat a little bit about your experiences. A living memory in every day and every way, exactly. It is nothingness but a presence of love's co-creation. The nothingness is the realization that the material world is just an illusion, where the true and only reality is love's co-creation. Oh, thank you for life. Love's present to us is our experience here. Our present to love is what we do with that experience. And breathe in that honeysuckle. Breathe in that rose. Breathe in that scent of that exotic tea and those baked goods. Nothing and everything, personified love. See how the light comes from the sky and there are no shadows. All of the creatures coming around, you're seeing their consciousness, not their bodies, their consciousness. And you see it clearly because that's photonic light, no shadow. The shadow is where the illusion hides. And when you're in a place that has no shadows, nothing can lie or hide. There is no threat. No one can lie, cheat, or steal because you're all connected in the great link. You're all telepathic. See it clearly. Slancha, Inc. And 3, you're in a deep, deep, deep state of relaxation. Your conscious mind, your avatar is totally relaxed, focused on its breath. You're not connected with your avatar. You are in the sanctuary of the paranormal where you are only present totally as your consciousness's free will. And all of the characters, spirits, creatures are in that sanctuary amongst you, along with your cadre and your chorus and the shock troops of love's co-creation. You're all together, and it is one big party. You're just having so much fun. You are experiencing the exhilaration of freedom. What is freedom? Is that freedom to express yourself with your free will, not expecting yourself to be anything that anyone expects you to be. There are no expectations. You're not having to live up to anyone's expectations. You're living moment to moment with your free will's joy, unconditional love of love's co-creation. Everyone there is the spirit of the savage, of the individual artist. See it clearly. And know that you can go here anytime you wish. Instantaneously. Close your eyes, breathe 20% in, 30% out. And you can go straight to the sanctuary of the paranormal. Straight past all of the controlling, that you normally have to do to go into state. You can just go bang right there. See it clearly. All the rest that I have shown you, your Akashic record, your sanctuary of your own choosing, the house of the cadre, of the Oracle of Delphi, your lodge in the Oracle of Delphi, all of that. You don't need to use any of those tools. Those tools are there for a reason. You can use them. You can bring any part of it with you, but you can go straight to the sanctuary, the paranormal, because it gives you an experience that is not the linear time of the illusion of Lucifer. The sanctuary, the paranormal, is a place that totally resides and loves co-creation. See it clearly. You're there now. And you're there always. And you can be there instantaneously. And just as Mr. Astor walked across the grass and sat down with you and opened up these doorways, you have total access to any other level of information that comes to you through the paranormal. See it clearly. You can go back to Shambhala and speak to all the folk who are there, practicing and working on their disciplines. And you can talk to them about the sanctuary of the paranormal, and they can give you their experience. You can talk to your guides in your Akashic record, in your library, and they will bring forth information that, in your Akashic record, you can see on the screen a deeper vision of what this all is. You can use all of these tools to bring forth yourself in ascension to your free will's consciousness. See this clearly. And I, as your sanctuary sensei, Al-Bab, has step by step brought you here so you can be responsible for your own well-being, your own life. You can lead by example in every day and every way. You can be that pebble in the pond of the collective great link that brings that tsunami of love. See it clearly. And I'm going to count you back now from 3 to 1. And when I say 1 the last time, I'll snap my fingers and you'll be right back in your avatar. And you'll feel amazingly happy, amazingly experienced. And this will not waste away. This experience will be a cornerstone of your taking that corner into a new life. See it clearly. And 3, you're in a deep state of relaxation. You're in the sanctuary of the paranormal. You're in a gigantic, really amazing tea party that you can experience anytime you wish. But for now, we're heading back. You're getting up from that comfy chair. You're saying, I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. I love you all. You're deep in my heart. Every time I close my eyes, I will be here and see you. You're always with me. I'm always with you. And you're walking down that lane. And then you come up into your garden of your lodge. And 2, you feel amazingly refreshed and beautiful and like you've had the greatest experience. And now you understand what Jimi Hendrix said, are you experienced? Well, I am. See it clearly. And you walk out of your lodge through your shortcut into your library, and you walk over to your guides, your librarian, your animal totem, and your guardian angel. And they all seem to have streamers in their hair from the party and grass clippings from rolling around on the lawn and little cups of poutine still in their hand, and they look so happy from going to that party, that tea party. It was just so much fun, and they love you so much for sharing that with them. You bow with grace and humility, and so do they. And you walk from your library, and you're in a deep state of relaxation, but you're coming back into your avatar. You feel your body. You open your eyes. You take in a breath. You feel the air go into your lungs. You feel the prana energizing every cell of your body. You feel great. You feel ready to do whatever you need to do, whether that's go to bed, go to work, go to fun, whatever it is. And you're back in your body. And you're back here right now. So, gang, what was that like? I mean, I can read all the things you've said. You were multitasking well. So that was kind of interesting, wasn't it? That was more than you expected. That was something that kind of changed your life. Oh, Lisa. And I'm inching you closer and closer to that place where I no longer have to take you. You're going there yourself. You were always going there yourself. You were always on that path. You've just been illuminated with your breath, that's all. You got a good photonic flashlight now. You can see much better. You're no longer, taken by surprise by the illusion, right? You got that flashlight, just shine it in there, right? There are no shadows. And when there are no shadows, you cannot be lied to. See it clearly. And it's 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 38 seconds. So, we'll sit here and chat a while. I feel fine-ish. I enjoyed that tea party. That was kind of fun. I liked those cookies. Those almond cookies. Yummy, yummy, yummy. And they're kind of flaky. They just kind of dissolve in your mouth, right? And that taste of anisette and kind of almost like truffle and those almond, and all that's left in your mouth are the little slices of almonds. I love those cookies. So any questions? Any thoughts? Any remarks? Responses? Any of you guys, what was the most interesting character? Did you see any aliens? Any, you know. Enjoyed the ride. Well, buddy, you're a multi-dimensional character. So in every one of your little points of reference, your dream time, when you wake up, when you go to sleep, in the middle of the afternoon, just close those eyes and see if you can get to that place. See if you can find that lawn. See if you can find those nice, comfy leather chairs on the slate patio. See if you can smell the tea. There's all three pots there, buddy. The one that makes you really full of vim and vigor, sharpens your mind, and that other one that takes you up to that swirly place. And you can go there without any kind of substance that you need to buy. It's in you, just like DMT. It's in you, right? That space is in you, in your consciousness of your free will. And all you just have to do is freely want to go there. How about you, Miss Lisa? What do you think? Mr. Ink? Dragon, how about you? Oh, my butt. Ooh. I'm going to have to get up and walk around in a minute. So, unless you guys have something you want to chat about, I want to say goodnight. Get some water, walk around, stretch my muscles. I've been sitting here in state for 2 hours, so even though my body feels good enough, and my jaw is getting better every day, its holes are closing up, and still a little sore, though. But it doesn't hurt like the first 3 nights talking, so I'm all good. $30C, Lord have mercy, that's toasty. It's about 20 degrees Fahrenheit here. So 30C. That's almost 100. Yep. You guys make me feel better. Okay. I think at 2 hours and 12 minutes and 12 seconds, I will say goodnight. Right now it's 2 hours and 11 minutes and 8 seconds, so. And I'll say tomorrow's Sunday, so I'll try and do something in the morning. And then again at 7 tomorrow. Not tonight. I have to go back later tonight because there's too much noise and my cat keeps trying to convert him. Party going on. Party going on. Well, okay. Maybe you should go to the party, Dragon. There it is. 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 2 seconds. So in a few seconds, I'll say goodnight. Sweet dreams, my friends. Good night. Good night. Stay well. Be good. Much love, my cadre. See you, Lisa C., and everybody else. Until then, I'm always with you. Your Sensei Al Bob. See you tomorrow.